Taste and smell, two of the five senses that work in tandem to create a singular sensory sensation. Today on TechKnow, new research into the psychology of taste and smell, and how past memories can instantly be remembered with just a whiff. And later, an inside look at the high-tech science of creating memorable flavours. Flavours that are part of the $25 billion global fragrance industry. This is TechKnow, a show about innovations that can change lives. We're going to explore the intersection of hardware and humanity, and we're doing it in a unique way. This is a show about science by scientists. Hello and welcome to TechKnow. I'm Dr. Shini Somara. When you walk past these cafes, the aromas are amazing, which is a great way to start today's episode on the science of taste and smell. We take an innovative sensory test that will change the way you think your senses work. Here's TechKnow's Marita Davison.
Dr. Hildegarde Heymann is preparing food in her kitchen. Not an ordinary kitchen, but a research lab in Northern California. Dr. Heymann, a sensory scientist, is preparing foods for me to taste in a sensory experiment. Dim red lights and an enclosed space, I'm at the Robert Mondavi Institute for Wine and Food Science at the University of California, Davis. Now, I'm about to put my taste buds to the test, but first things first, I need to wear one of these nose clips to demonstrate how important smell truly is. So, I definitely can't smell. I'm ready for my first sample. I'm gonna let them know.
You ready for me?
I'm ready.
So I'm gonna hand you some chocolate.
Okay, eyes closed. I can't smell.
Is it dark or milk chocolate?
Oh, this is dark chocolate for sure. But I think it's because it's harder. It's what I would most expect.
Okay. I'll give you the next one.
Definitely milk chocolate. It's smooth.
Do you get any chocolatiness?
No, I don't think I would be able to say this is chocolate.
Okay, so now take your nose clips off.
Oh, wow. Now there's chocolate. It doesn't get old.
It doesn't, does it?
That's really cool.
Cool, yeah.
When you got the dark chocolate, for example, you could tell me that it was a little bitter and it was harder and more brittle than the milk chocolate you had had before. Those are all sensations that happen in the mouth. The bitterness is one of the five senses of taste that we have: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami, which is this taste, it's a savory brothiness that you get from monosodium glutamate.
Okay.
And then the other things that happen in your mouth, the creaminess, the brittleness, those are mouthfeel sensations.
Yeah.
So in that particular case, you had absolutely no smell because it was all in the mouth. Once you took off the nose clips, you suddenly knew it was chocolate.
Oh, it was like a wave of sensation that
It's sort of magical, isn't it?
When you consider how our bodies have adapted over time, taste and smell are magical senses.
So much of what we perceive about food is actually smell and not taste. We refer what we smell to our tongues. And so that situation happens and we think we're actually tasting it, but we're actually smelling it. And part of the reason for that is we have two senses of smell, or olfaction, which is the scientific word for smell.
Yeah.
We have orthonasal olfaction, which is smelling from outside of the body. So if I have a strawberry in my hand and I smell it, it smells like a strawberry. And what happens is that the volatile compounds that make it smell like a strawberry grow from the strawberry into my nose. As I breathe in, it goes past my olfactory receptors, which sit on this side on each nostril. They react with the receptors and the brain interprets that, oh, that is a strawberry. That's orthonasal. When I put that strawberry in my mouth and I chew on it, the volatiles get released. They now, when I breathe out, go up the back of my throat, up to my olfactory receptors, interact, and the brain reacts to that and see, oh, that's a strawberry. But what we now know is that when an odor comes this way, orthonasally, the brain responds differently than when it comes retronasally in the opposite direction.
Which allows us to eat some foods that smell foul or appear bad, like some cheeses, but aren't.
Because now the brain is saying, oh, that's actually something I can eat. And it responds to it differently, and much more of the brain lights up. It's much more of an emotional, positive response.
The brain and emotion play a big part of how we perceive taste and smell. Case in point, a popular chowder festival in Oxnard, California.
But I don't particularly mind that it tastes like vegetables, like healthy.
Often, when people eat similar foods, they'll have different taste responses.
I like the spice. I like to have taste more bay leaves or maybe more cayenne pepper in it.
One's really creamy, so more of a, like buttery, creamy kind of thing.
It's really smoky. It tastes like there's a cheese in it.
Thyme, rosemary, that type of stuff.
It's like a tangy flavor. It's really good.
They're all very different. They're all challenging each other.
The more sweet, the more sugary flavors. I like it to be a little bit sweeter.
A similar dish with a variety of different personal tastes and smell experiences. But why?
We can smell somewhere between 1 million and 10 million odors, depending on which literature you're reading. However, every one of us, we have about 1,000 olfactory receptor genes. Every one of us have some of those non-functional. And so we're not smelling the same things. We are specifically anosmic to certain odors.
So that means if they're non-functional, it means we just
cannot
can't smell them.
You cannot smell that smell. And then we also get some extra genes sometimes, and we have double alleles of some things, and we're more sensitive to those odors.
That's the physiology of it all, but there's an even deeper level to taste and smell.
But smell has an enormously emotional effect. We all have a smell or a series of smells that when you smell them, they put you back in some very happy place that you used to be, usually as a child, but not always as a child. And those emotions are so strong that even if you know this is happening, it will still make you happy.
I lost my dad a few years ago, and in the immediate aftermath, I was not very emotional. I think I was just getting through the motions, and my aunt had collected some of his shirts and months later presented me with a quilt that she had made of his shirts, and first thing I did was I smelled it, and I was just in tears for the first time, when my dad passed.
And the reason for that is that the olfactory bulb, which is where these smells go, or the information goes, is surrounded by the emotion center. And so the sense of smell is tightly bound with our emotions. And it triggers really strongly into our emotions. About 20 years ago, there was this whole thing about aromatherapy. Well, it works, but it doesn't work on a commercial scale because your happy smell and my happy smell are very unlikely to be the same thing.
Working to find that happy smell or taste is what drives the global flavor industry. Companies invest greatly in research and development to create memorable tastes. Happy tastes for our olfactory systems, you can say. It's been studied for decades, and it's still very complicated.
Flavor, food and beverage is something which, even in a globalized world, is really local. As an example, within Europe, the idea of an ideal orange flavor in a drink may be very, very different from a French consumer to a German consumer.
For more on that part of the story, TechKnow's Dr. Crystal Dilworth traveled to a unique citrus grove in Southern California, where the science of manufactured flavors often begins.
Well, lemons, oranges, and grapefruits are the popular varieties of citrus around the world. There's over 1,000 additional varieties, and most of them can be found in this 25-acre orchard at the University of California, Riverside. That's why scientists and flavorists come here to study what grows on these trees.
This is sanguinelli blood orange. Blood oranges are called blood oranges because they have a pigment inside called anthocyanin, which makes them red in color.
Dr. Tracy Kahn is the curator of this orchard that is used by researchers and flavorists from global companies like Givaudan to study new taste ideas called flavor profiles.
It has fairly aromatic rind. One of the things Givaudan usually does is we actually give people peels. I'll show you what we do. They smell the peel to get an idea of the aroma of the peel, where the juice vesicles are on the orange part, and that's where a lot of the oils that are aromatic are. So, and in fact, you can get some fruits are very different between what you're smelling and what you end up tasting.
So bright.
It is.
Such a clean scent.
And then we cut the fruit in half. And often I hand half of it to somebody.
So these two halves look beautiful, but what would a flavorist be interested in?
So they're not so interested in the look. What they want to know is, what does it smell like? What is the flavor like? So when we smelled a few minutes ago the peel, that gives you one sense of the fruit. But when you start cutting it, and then you take a taste.
Oh, wow. Sweeter than I imagined.
Yeah,
got blood running down my hand.
You do.
So obviously it's really hard to improve on Mother Nature. What would a flavorist do once they've come here?
So they want to get a sense of what Mother Nature's created, and they want to be able to try to recreate that freshness, the flavor in all its complexity that it has. And so this gives them an idea of what that complexity could be, and they can actually take samples back to the lab or back to where they're working and use that to try to match those flavors.
Fruit extracts from the California orchards are brought here to Naarden, just outside of Amsterdam, where the citrus is used as the foundation for new flavors.
We are so lucky to have our relationship with Tracy and UCR. The groves there are an amazing resource.
Jeff Marshall Hill is a principal flavorist with Givaudan, the largest flavor and fragrance company in the world.
When we harvest fruit and ship it around the world, what we taste in the supermarkets and in our home, it's a wonderful product, but it's nothing can beat, as anybody knows who grows fruit at home. It really is the case that what's fresh off the tree delivers that unique profile that really, as a flavorist, inspires us to try to mimic what nature does so easily.
One of the beautiful fruits that we picked in the orchard was a sanguinelli blood orange. Tell me a little bit about what you experience when you pick and eat one of those.
Oh, you've chosen one of my favourites there. The sanguinelli blood orange, really the flesh of the blood orange, just like all blood oranges, contains some ingredients that take it in the direction of the berry notes, the fruitiness. It distinguishes it from all of the other sweet oranges in a quite unique direction.
So after you've tasted and experienced that blood orange in the field, what's the next step?
The next step really is taking the ingredient knowledge that we've learnt. We will scientifically collect the headspace of the different fruit parts and identify the ingredients that are present within the fruit that are positive or maybe negative.
Headspace is the area above any contents sealed in a container or jar.
Basically, all we would do is take that slice and prepare it fresh off the tree.
I can smell it already just standing here.
Isn't it great? So you can decide how much of the rind you want compared to the actual juice. As you say, as soon as you cut into it, you start that smell. So what we have here is an apparatus that will trap that smell.
So what I just took in as a whiff, we can trap in here.
Absolutely.
All right.
We then just place the glass lid on and just give it a few minutes just to warm up so that the headspace, the area of air above that product, it could be a plate of food just prepared by a Michelin star chef, or it could be a slice of a vanilla pod that we've just collected from Madagascar, or in this case, a slice of orange.
So all of those, the molecules that make up the smell are kind of gathering in this dome.
Yep, and just building up. What we do is then take this little pump and it will suck through that headspace through this little trap here. Now what that contains is an absorbent material where the ingredients that make up that volatile smell, if we've done our job right, once we've pumped for maybe 20 minutes, we can then take that back. We'll just seal it up so that we don't lose anything. So when we get back to our labs, we can put that onto an instrument that will then pass that through what we call a GCMS, gas chromatography mass spectrometer. And we can then separate each of the many components that are there, identify them, and we can then choose which of those are the most important ingredients for us to use to blend to recreate that profile. Where we are is the last bit of the analytical process, really. What we're going to do here is use the flavorist nose on a GCO.
So you inject the sample and it goes through a column. The column separates out each component so they sort of arrive at the bottom at different times, and then you get to smell them sort of as they're coming off. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct.
So we've been sitting here waiting for about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So what do we expect to smell?
Dextrolimonene. It's the most abundant component in orange. And when it happens, it's pretty quick. Come in now.
Oh, you're right.
What you'll see is slightly woody. Think of maybe wood shavings as well as orange. Yeah?
I've lost it now.
Yeah, it's very quick.
It was very quick.
Yeah, that's one of the challenges of this technique, is you have to be very quick to associate with what it is. With as many as 4,500 ingredients that we are familiar with in citrus, being able to instantly recognise that ingredient and be able to respond and identify it is helpful, but fundamentally, in the first run, just say this is of interest and be able to just leave it there and move on to being ready for the next ingredient.
The collaboration with Jeff, like flavorist, is really a very important one. It's a dialogue. You know, sometimes the ideas or the evolution of the flavor comes indeed from a flavorist, where we try out new things, where we try out new profiles, and then we play it back to the consumers. Sometimes it also starts from the consumer, right? You know, where the consumer has certain views on how it should be different, and then we play it back. So it's really an iterative process, you know, together. It's not one telling the other what to do, but it literally is really this interlinkage between the two, and that's where it gets complex and interesting.
Are there regional differences, or are the consumers just the consumer?
Taste is not something which is globalized. You know, it's something which is very local. It depends on how you've been brought up. It depends on your culture. It depends on the food. Like citrus, for instance, you know, we got hundreds of different, you know, profiles. And, you know, where we really make the difference is when you get a local understanding of the consumer preference. So, you know, for example, an orange lemonade in Iran may be very, very different than an orange lemonade in Nigeria. And this is where, you know, the nuances and the difference in profiles, you know, come into play. Flavors is something which evokes a lot of emotions, you know. It's seemingly a small thing, but it's, at the end of the day, we all need to drink and eat. And we just believe that, you know, enjoyable drinking experience or an enjoyable eating moment, it's just adding joy to your life, and it's something which is important.
Jeff, what are we going to see now?
What I'd like to show you now, Crystal, is the more artistic side of what we do as flavorists. We've seen the science element. This is where we can actually take that information, that knowledge, and on proprietary equipment unique to Givaudan, precisely and accurately recombine all of those ingredients in many unique different ways to give us the profile that we're looking for to make really great tasting flavors.
And we can do that with this?
This is the mini vase, the virtual aroma synthesizer.
In the mini vase, air is blown through 29 cartridges containing specific flavor ingredients, in this case, citrus.
Now this group of ingredients are set up to mimic any of the citrus that we see in UCR groves. So by combining them in a number of different ways, we can actually recreate what we smelt in the grove. We smell each of these 29 channels together, and you will build your own picture of what it reminds you of, how much you like it, and how much you think it fits with where you want that flavour to be. So you can tailor make your flavour using this piece of equipment.
So if I wanted to create a custom beverage, a custom flavour, how do we do that?
Okay, very simple process. What we'll do is run through each of these one at a time, and you build up your wish list, your like list of where we want to be. So turn the machine on, and looking at the screen, I've got it set up for blood orange. The Sanguinelli blood orange. Have a smell.
Oh yeah, you can already smell it.
Now, this is your flavour. How would you like the Sanguinelli to progress?
No, I think it's too sweet for me. Can we tone down the sweetness?
What we would do is just highlight just the berry and just turn that on so that all you're now smelling is berry. Now if we have a smell, that's what berry smells like.
I think that might be it.
Okay, so we go back to the Sanguinelli, and as you can see, the berry there is 50. If you're saying that's too sweet, let's take it down to 20. So just making small increments or decreasing slightly is how we actually reach the profile that we're after. So have a smell now. That's still too sweet?
I think so. But it is different.
After having gone through many flavor combinations, we got close to creating a taste that appealed to me.
Oh yeah, I like that better.
Yeah, because sometimes it's not always what you think you need to add, it's sometimes what you need to take away, and sometimes the opposite. Adding something adds cost. If we can take something away and get the same favourable result, that's a more cost-effective way of making a product.
So what would be the next step? So say that this was the perfect scent for me. How would that be turned into a drink?
We have tools that allow us to calculate how much the concentration of the flow through this equipment relates to how much we would literally have to drop into the end product, whether that end product is a beverage, a yogurt, a candy. We have those calculations so that when we put this into an end product, we can have it smell exactly as we're smelling at this nose piece at the moment.
There is another impressive part of this James Bond-style mini-vast system.
Okay, we're connected.
Its ability to formulate a flavor, then send a file to another mini-vast system anywhere in the world via the internet, where the flavor can be replicated. For our demonstration, we connected live from Amsterdam to Cincinnati, Ohio, a distance of over 6,000 kilometers, so flavorist Scott Urich could review my new concoction.
This is Scott Urich in Cincinnati. Crystal has just created a brand new Sanguinelli blood orange flavour. We'd like to share it.
I love to smell it.
Well, we'll see what you think. I'm no expert.
Okay. I like it. I think, I don't know if it's beginner's luck, but it's a really it's a nice flavor. I think you've done a good job. I think it has a nice, authentic, and juicy profile. Maybe I would try adding maybe a little bit more of like a berry note, or maybe like adding some juicy character. So maybe if you add a little bit of the juicy key, I think that might help, drive some of that character.
The end result of the mini-vast process is to fine-tune a flavor so all can agree to take it to the next step of manufacturing.
And then maybe try adding a little bit of this juicy character.
Whoa, that's cool. I think my mouth watered.
What do you think, Jeff?
That's really made it much more refreshing and mouth-watering.
Yeah, it definitely made me want to drink it, as opposed to just smell it.
I think we should name it Crystal Blood Orange.
I like it, all right.
But you may be looking at maybe an energy drink or a dry powder drink. Any one of those different applications where we have a customer that is looking for this flavour profile, we would blend that flavour and provide it in a liquid form that can be easily dosed and provided to our customer.
It seems like my work is done, and now Givaudan can go and make us a bestseller.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the consumers are the ones who make that call.
Crystal Blood Orange.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing the crystal blood orange in the market here in the US.
Me too.
That's all for today. Join us for more science and innovation from around the world next time here on TechKnow.